Thank you, Your Honor. That's what we call Christoper Schurr.
And sir, before you take your seat, if you could please raise your right hand and the clerk will swear you in.
Okay.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Lodge.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Can you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Christoper Schurr, Schurr.
Let me just start out. Do you enjoy speaking in public?
Not particularly, no.
And throughout your life, is that something you don't particularly care for?
I'd say public speaking wasn't one of my strengths, no.
Now, you understand you have a right not to testify.
I do.
Why are you testifying?
I feel like it's important to get my side of the story out.
Now, we're going to go into several topics, obviously related to this case here, but just backing up a little bit in regards to your background and education. How old are you?
Currently 34,
How old were you in April of 2022?
31,
Where were you born?
Grand Rapids,
And where were you raised?
southeast side of Grand Rapids.
Do your parents reside in West Michigan here?
They do.
Are they in court here today?
They.
Do you have any siblings?
Yes.
Are they also present in court?
Yes.
Are you married?
Yes.
How long have you been married?
10 years.
And where did you meet your wife?
High school.
So-
Bergen Center. Yeah.
Have you been together since high school?
Yes.
So essentially high school sweethearts?
Yes.
Now, where were you and your wife married?
We were married in Kenya.
And what brought you to Kenya?
We were there on a mission trip
I
a
guess
couple
we have to
years.
object. We're getting a little bit far afield, Your Honor, in terms of who cares whether they're married.
Mr. Lodge.
I think it goes to some of his experiences in life, Your Honor. I think it's relevant.
I'll sustain the objection because I do believe that particular question is just going a little bit deeper than relevant.
Now, does your wife work?
Yes.
What field does she work in?
Mental health.
And you yourself, did you go into public service as a police officer?
I did.
Fair to say both you and your wife went into fields to help others.
Yes.
Did you attend high school here in West Michigan?
Yes.
And did you graduate high school?
I did.
After high school, what did you do?
I went to college at Siena Heights University.
Did you graduate college?
I did.
What year would that have been, approximately?
2014.
What was your major or focused area of study in college?
I majored in business with a focus in accounting and a minor in criminal justice.
Did you receive any scholarships in college?
Originally, I had an athletic scholarship and later gotten both athletic and academic scholarships.
Pretty good grades?
Yes.
What was your GPA you graduated with?
A 3.8.
Okay. Now, as far as athletics go, what sport did you participate in college?
Track and field.
And were you a short distance or a long distance?
I was a sprinter.
Okay. After college, what did you do?
After college, I got a job in the private sector as an entry-level accountant.
And at some point, did you go back to school for continued career education?
Yes.
What did you do next?
I went to Lansing Community College for their police academy.
And why did you join the police academy?
I just wanted to do a job that was more fulfilling.
And what were your feelings on police work? Why police work?
It was a fulfilling job.
Schurr's testimony.
There's more voices. I don't know where that's coming from.
Sounded like we, yeah.
No, it was your person, Sarah Lynch.
Very sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. Lodge.
Thank you. Why did you pick police work?
It's never the same thing every day. To me, it was more fulfilling than working in an office, and got to help people.
Now, what year approximately was that you attended the police academy?
2015?
And you mentioned LCC, Lansing Community College.
Yes.
Is that academy what's called an MCOLS accredited academy?
It is.
MCOLS, Michigan Commission of Law Enforcement Standards, is that your understanding?
Yes.
And I'm sure we could spend hours talking about the MCOLS Academy and the different topics, but just in general, what did your MCOLS Academy prepare you for?
I would say it gives you a foundation to continue training as a police officer.
And is your understanding that the basic standards trained at LCC is consistent with all other MCOLS accredited academies across the state?
That's my understanding.
How long was the academy at LCC?
Approximately 4 months.
Full time?
Yes.
And what's full time?
It's 40 plus hours a week.
Are there a variety of topics covered?
Yes.
Approximately how many?
And there's probably over 100 different topics.
And you give just a sampling of some of the basic topics covered at the LCC Academy.
I'd say the main ones are criminal law, investigations, use of force, first aid.
Now, use of force, that's a topic that's discussed going all the way back to your initial MCOLS Academy.
Correct.
And does MCOLS train you that you need to use force at times upon subjects?
Yes.
And do they give you instructions on how and perhaps when to use certain levels of command or force?
Yes.
At MCOLS, do they discuss some of the realities that police may encounter out in the field?
Yes.
Is that always predictable?
No.
Can you explain?
I'd say most of what we do out in the field is not predictable. It's a dynamic environment, and we train in a controlled setting.
Now, at the MCOLS Academy, is there always a perfect way or a best way to handle every situation or scenario?
I'd say we strive for perfection. Probably another sheet.
Does MCOLS, going all the way back, do they talk about certain circumstances that may be beyond an officer's control that might affect their performance in real life encounters?
Yes.
They talk about factors, and I'm sure there's a plethora of them, but reaction times, is that something that's discussed all the way back at MCOLS?
Yes.
What do they teach you about reaction times?
Essentially, action beats reaction.
And how do they, what's some examples of how they teach that?
One of the main ways is a 7-yard or a 21-foot rule, essentially, that someone could cover that distance and harm you before you could react.
And do they go through drills and videos and things like that as well to demonstrate this?
Yes.
So even back to MCOLS Academy, are you shown that there can be factors that put a police officer at a disadvantage?
Yes.
But even with knowledge of potential limitations, do you still need to respond to calls?
Yes.
You still need to enforce laws.
Yes.
Are the situations that police encounter, is it always safe?
Typically not.
But are you still required to march into a lot of volatile situations?
Yes.
What if you don't perform your essential functions, even going all the way back to the MCOLS Academy? What are you told if you don't perform your essential functions? What can be some of the consequences of that?
Either I or others could be injured, if not other consequences
Such
at your
as?
department, such as cowardice.
Okay. Now, going back to the MCOLS Academy, do they use scenarios and simulations?
Yes.
Is this meant, what is your understanding of why they do these scenarios and simulations?
It's just to get us used to problem solving and learning whatever they're trying to teach us at the time.
Are these run out in the real life field, or are they in a rather controlled setting?
Controlled setting.
Now, at the conclusion of the MCOLES Academy, are you given a rather lengthy and thorough examination to ascertain your knowledge on these topics?
Yes.
And are you ultimately given an examination?
Yes.
I'm sorry, are you ultimately required to attain a certain score?
Yes,
And did you pass the MCOLES Academy?
I did.
Now, after the LCC Academy, are you a fully licensed police officer?
You are not. You need to complete training at a department.
While you were in LCC, did you start to apply for jobs?
I did.
And was one of those departments GRPD?
Yes.
And was that a rather sought-after job back then?
I'd say so.
Why
yes.
is that?
The opportunities, the different departments, if you will, that you can get into.
Now, were you ultimately hired?
Yes.
What happens after you're hired into GRPD?
You go into an 8-week in-house training where you do more scenarios.
Okay. And I know throughout the course of the trial, we've seen the video montage.
Yes.
What year was that video montage from?
2015?
And is that you at the 8-week GRPD Academy?
It is.
And is that full-time, the
Yes.
8-week? What's full-time for that academy?
I would say that was just 40 hours a week.
Okay. Now, are the topics covered at GRPD, are those identical to MCOLES, or how do you compare?
I would say they're more specific to Grand Rapids. Essentially, they're putting us in different scenarios and having to solve problems the way Grand Rapids wants us to solve them.
Okay. We covered some of the same topics as far as traffic stops, first aid. Is that fair to say?
It's fair to say.
Now, do you cover firearms training?
Yes.
Are a lot of the concepts in firearms training similar from GRPD to MCOLES as far as the basic concepts?
The basics, yes. I think Grand Rapids probably more advanced than what the academy was.
What level of force is firearm deployment upon a human?
Deadly force.
And in GRPD, do they take you through scenarios and situations that police might encounter as is exhibited on the video there?
They do.
The same scenarios as LCC, or do they go through quite a few more?
Definitely a lot more. At LCC, you're more or less laying the groundwork and probably more book work and not as many scenarios. I felt as though Grand Rapids, we did more scenarios.
How many, roughly?
Probably thousands.
We saw just a sampling on the video of some of those scenarios.
Yes.
Now, as you're instructed on those scenarios, are you trained that there's only one way to effectively perform a task?
No.
Basically, what are they showing you there?
Essentially, there's a parameter, if you will, to handle it. There's definitely preferred ways, but there's definitely no person is the same. So the way I handle something is going to be different than what someone else handles something.
Now, does the GRPD Academy, similar to MCOLES, do they try to expose you to some of the limitations that an officer may expose out in real life?
Yes.
Do they discuss topics like human reaction time?
Yes.
Now, does GRPD, do they train you on weapons, other weapons as well?
Yes.
What weapons were you trained on with GRPD?
The taser.
Any others?
Their issued firearm and pepper spray, baton.
Okay. Now, going to the taser. Good, you need a drink of water? Go ahead. All right. Who instructs the taser training?
Master taser instructor.
And we've sat through several experts on tasers, okay? So I'm not going to ask you about all of the workings of the taser. But your taser training, does that go all the way back to the 8-week that they start to train you?
Yes.
Is it lectures, hands-on? How do they instruct you?
Combination. There's definitely a classroom element, scenarios, and they do a voluntary exposure.
And we'll get to that in a moment here. But if used properly by a trained person, what is the main goal of using the taser on a subject?
To achieve neuromuscular incapacitation.
And can the taser be effective at causing
Yes.
incapacitation? And do you know that firsthand?
Yes.
Now, your voluntary tasing, was that back at your 8-week then?
Yes.
Mr. McFarland, could you just pull up? I believe it's Defense Exhibit J. It's the voluntary tasing. Does that appear to be your voluntary tasing session?
Yes.
We've had this explained, but is it a rather controlled setting?
Yes.
Does safety seem to be paramount?
Yes.
The faces are blurred off, but what is everybody wearing on their eyes?
Everyone's wearing safety glasses.
Now, what is your understanding of why the voluntary tasing might be beneficial to recruits?
Just to know the effects of it, to know what you would potentially be doing to someone else as well.
But even though controlled, do you still have to sign a waiver?
Yes.
And essentially, what is the waiver telling you?
Essentially, that waiver, my understanding was relieving the city of any potential liability from injury or death that the device may cause.
Now, who's deploying the taser on you there?
It's a master taser instructor.
Could you please play the video, Mr. McFarland? How'd that feel?
Terrible.
What did it feel like?
Just essentially your muscles contract involuntary to their max capacity, and it's extremely excruciating pain.
Now, can you compare it to anything else that you'd ever experienced?
No.
Have you ever felt like anything like that before in your life?
No.
Now, after having felt the effects of the taser, would you volunteer to do it again?
No.
But prior to being tased there, did the master taser instructor give you some instructions on what was going to happen?
Yes.
What did they tell you?
They did a couple different deployments and varying spread, and he let me know how he was going to deploy it on me
Okay.
and where.
I'm sorry, where?
Yeah.
And does that help at all with any angst that you may have?
Probably alleviated some.
Now, when you were tased there, did you feel like you had much control over your body?
No.
And we've heard this term, I think, sometimes, taking the ride. Is that what they refer to it as, is when you're under the effects of the taser?
Yes.
How long does that ride last?
5 seconds.
Do you feel during that 5 seconds that you have the ability to defend yourself?
No.
What are you trained that can mean for a police officer in the field if someone fights them for their taser and uses it on them?
They would get access to our firearm.
Now, in police training, do you discuss topics like that? Officers getting disarmed of their weapons?
Yes.
Generally, what are you trained to presume if a subject forcefully disarms an officer of their weapon?
They would use it on us.
The ride is 5 seconds?
It is.
How long do you think it would take for someone to get your firearm off your body and use it on you?
Second.
Mr. McFarland, could you please play that again? What were you trained back then, as far as if the user continued to hold it or continued to press the button?
Well, so it's designed to be charged for 5 seconds, but you can hold the trigger down or keep pressing the trigger to keep doing additional 5-second cycles.
And in your training, are you warned not to continually hold it or have repeated trigger pulls on
Yes.
a subject? What were you warned was the risk of prolonged or continuous holds or deployments?
Can cause cardiac arrest.
And is cardiac arrest mentioned in the axon materials that they go through with you?
Yes.
What can be the result of cardiac arrest?
Death.
Would you expect an untrained person to know that a continued or repeated ride could cause cardiac arrest?
No.
Now, how far was the master taser instructor from you approximately when it was deployed?
Probably 2 feet.
Would that have, particularly with that older model, would that have been optimal probe spread?
No.
Can you just stand up a second?
Yeah.
Where did the probes hit on you?
They hit my, I guess, right leg, just the back side of it, and they were probably only that far apart.
So that's fairly close, is that fair
I
to
would say
say?
it's really close.
But watching that video, was it only your leg that felt the effects of that?
No, I would say it was my entire lower body, but my arms it's more or less an involuntary response, so I didn't feel like I had control of my arms.
Do you feel like the taser did its job and was able to incapacitate you?
Yes.
Now, just going back to this topic of a closer deployment like that, after your voluntary tasing, did the GRPD, we've heard there was updates in models.
Yes.
Do you recall what model that old one was?
I don't recall the names. I know at the time of the incident that we're here for, I had the Taser 7.
Okay. And was there a new feature on the Taser 7 for close quarter situations compared to the older model there?
Yes.
And we've heard, was there a new cartridge?
Yes.
Explain that.
I obviously don't know the exact degrees. Essentially, there is a cartridge designed with a wider angle, if you will, to achieve a greater, we'll call it NMI, at close range.
So, if in this video you would have had the newer Taser 7 model and it was deployed at that same distance, what may have been the effect on you there?
I would assume a greater effect as probes get further apart.
Now, besides the cartridges, were you trained that the Taser has the ability to drive stun?
Yes.
And how do you activate the drive stun?
Anytime the device is activated, essentially the drive stun is activated. The drive stun's the technique.
The attorneys keep mixing it up.
It's essentially the end of the device gets activated along with the probes and wires.
And then are you taught that you can drive that activation and stun the individual?
Correct.
So it's the action is drive stunning.
Or you would get a greater NMI by doing that.
And I'd like to go into that here, because under what circumstances did GRPD train you to use the drive stun?
Every time we would use the drive stun, it would be to achieve NMI.
So was that the only time you were ever practicing the drive stun on individuals?
Correct.
So to a GRPD officer, you're only using the drive stun in association with NMI?
Correct.
Mr. McFarland, could you please go to it's Defense Exhibit J? And this is the 8-week demonstration on the dummy. Just to confirm, is this you in the video here that
It
we'll
is.
see in a moment?
Yeah.
And was this back in the 8-week academy?
Yes.
Could you please play that? Chris, how far from, that's a dummy, correct? It's not a live person.
Yeah.
How far were you from the dummy when you deployed the probes?
Foot.
And what did you do after you deployed the probes?
I moved the device to what would be the dummy's calf.
Were you trained that that's an acceptable distance to deploy the taser?
Yes.
You've heard throughout this trial some question of you should not deploy the taser at a closer range under some different standards. This is how you were trained, that you could use the taser in that close of quarters?
Correct.
Could you just play it again, please? I'd just like you to focus on unholstering here, please. Be able to see yourself getting the taser out of the holster.
Yeah.
And the jury's heard some testimony on this already, but does it take some action to get the device out of the taser?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, get the device out of the holster.
So this device, I would say, and holster combination was significantly easier than what I was equipped with on the day of the incident. This one was a little more loose fit, so it's easier to actually, you have a snap, which is kind of hard to undo at times, and then a hood that holds the device in. So this was a little bit looser fit, so it was a little more functional, if you will.
And when the Taser 7 came out, are you provided with new training materials on that?
Yes.
And was that a topic that was discussed in some of those materials as far as that it has a different type of holster?
Yes.
Now, let's just say on this video, what if only one probe connected or made contact even with the dummy there? What would the drive stun do there? What could the drive stun do to help cause NMI?
It would, I guess as they would say, complete the circuit to create it's always a third point of contact, but you get that another point of contact to create the NMI.
Okay. Now, prior to April 4 of 2022, did you have occasion to actually use your taser on subjects out in the field?
I did,
How many times?
just once.
And where on the body did you deploy the taser on that prior occasion?
Subject's back.
And was it a struggle with the individual, or?
Yes.
And how far away were you from the individual when you deployed?
Foot and a half.
And what did you do after that?
I believe I had to move the device to another area on the subject to achieve NMI.
And what did this assist you in the situation?
Yes.
What were you able to do from that point?
I was able to take the person into custody.
Now, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here, okay? But in that prior use out in the field, going to April 4 in the incident that we're here on, the proximity of you and that individual in the prior case, was that a very similar proximity as you were to Mr. Lyoya when you went to initially draw your taser?
Yes.
On that prior taser occasion, are you required to notify your department if you use force?
Yeah, any use of force, we have to notify the department.
And was anything found inappropriate about the way you used your taser on that occasion?
No.
What did the department actually do in response to your use of taser on that occasion?
So we have to object or get into another taser deployment on what the department did or anything is purely irrelevant.
Your Honor, I think it's important to go to what his training was and what his department did as far as in response. They didn't.
To a different incident?
Yeah, to solidify his training and their practices and his experiences.
So I'll sustain that objection, because I don't believe that particular question was one calling for a relevant response to the case.
What's ingrained in your head from that prior experience as far as the distance that you were from Mr. Lyoya and whether that might be appropriate?
That it was appropriate.
Now, during TASER training, are recruits and officers, when they're updates, provided with lectures and materials from Axon?
I'm sorry, can you say that?
Are you provided or gone through with materials from Axon, the manufacturer?
Yes.
And what are you warned about the TASER?
That it can cause serious bodily injury or death.
Now, are you trained on preferred target areas of the body to use the TASER?
Yes.
And how do they show you this in general? Do you recall anything in particular? I think it's in
It's
some of
just,
that.
yeah, it's just a body and it shows caution areas.
And are you trained on areas to avoid then?
Yes.
And we've heard this area is sensitive areas. Is that something that's discussed?
Yes.
What areas on the body are you trained to avoid using the TASER upon?
Essentially the head, neck, genital region,
And
and chest.
are you taught to avoid either shooting probes or using drive stun on those areas?
Yes.
What are you trained can be the risk of TASER use on the eyes?
Blindness.
Now, are you also advised that TASER use on some of these sensitive areas can just overall cause serious injury or death?
Yes.
So that's you, the officer, that's what you're being instructed directly from the manufacturer. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Now, going back to the 8-week here, after the 8-week, what are your duties?
I'm assigned to a field training officer. Essentially, we go into a FTO program that's 4 months long. You're given different training officers to grade your performance on a daily basis.
And I'm sorry, you said that's how long?
4 months.
4 months with an FTO.
Correct.
Is that what they're referred to?
Yes.
And along the way, they're evaluating and critiquing you. Is that right?
That's right.
And over time, do they start to give you more responsibilities?
Yes.
Do you deem the FTO, are they essentially an extension of the training unit?
They are.
Would an FTO generally be well-versed in the rules, policies, and the practices of the department?
Should be, yes.
At some point, were you an FTO down the road?
Yes.
Okay, for how long approximately?
I think 3 or 4 years.
So did you essentially train other officers in the Grand Rapids Police Department
Yes.
on practices, policies, and procedures? Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Now, going to April of 2022, how long would you have been an officer with GRPD in April 2022?
Almost 7 years?
In April 2022, were you overall physically fit?
Yes.
Were you a little ways from your college athletic days, or did you maintain that for?
I think it'd be fair to say I didn't have the amount of time to dedicate to exercise like I did in my college days.
But in April 2022, what did you do to maintain fitness, just generically?
I exercise 5 or 6 days a week, whether it's cardio or weightlifting.
Okay. Anything marathons, Ironman, anything like that?
No.
How about MMA or competitive wrestling, anything along those lines?
No.
Why did you stay physically fit?
I just think it's important. We are required to back up our partners and assist people on calls, and unfortunately, part of our job is sometimes we have to go hands-on with people.
Okay. During the 6 years of service up until April 2022, do you have ongoing trainings?
Yes.
Can you just give us a little synopsis, or how often?
I'd say we have regular trainings. It started to become more regular with smaller blocks at that time, so we might have been doing training maybe a couple times a month on different topics.
Are there policy updates over the course of that time?
Yes,
And are you required to stay up to date on policy changes?
yes,
Is that something you took seriously?
yes.
Now, as a road patrol officer in GRPD in April of 2022, were there certain crimes that were more prevalent or perhaps more of concern for you out on the road in that time?
Yes.
What were they?
I would say in the city at that time we had to worry about gun violence, drugs, and stolen cars.
Now we're going to April 4 of 2022, all right?
Yep.
What shift were you working that day?
First shift.
What time does your first shift run?
Mine ran from 5:30 in the morning to 5:30 at night.
So you've got 12 hours that you're essentially out on the road.
Correct.
How many days a week? Generally, were you working 12-hour shifts?
Well, it kind of varies. I mean, some weeks. So one week it's Monday, Tuesday, and you have Wednesday, Thursday off, and you work Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The next week you work Wednesday, Thursday, and that's it. So
It's all over the place.
it's all over the place.
Okay.
And then overtime in between there.
All right. Now, for a 5:30 a.m. shift, what time would you have woken up on April 4 of 2022?
Between 4 and 4:30,
Any normal routine in the morning for you?
just shower, shave.
Okay. What time did you normally arrive to GRPD?
Sometime around 5.
What was your normal routine when you arrive down at the station?
Just get into uniform, and then I'd go to the room that we had line up at and go over wanted subjects, and we also had a sheet for stolen cars.
Now, what time would you actually, for a 5:30 shift, what time would you actually get out on the road?
Oh, probably closer to 6.
And it's been 3 years, okay? So I'm not asking you to remember every bit of your morning there, but do you remember in general what you had done during your shift prior to this episode here that morning?
I believe I responded to just a basic alarm at some point, and I know one of the issues I had in my service area was speeding complaints in a school zone in the area of 36 in Kalamazoo. I went down there and realized that it was spring break. It was pretty slow, so there wasn't many cars to stop in that area at that time.
Okay.
I know I reviewed policy here and there, and eventually ended up in the area of Kalamazoo and Fuller.
What were the weather conditions that morning?
Cold, wet, rainy, like a rain-snow mix.
Overall, was it a busy morning out around the roads, or was it slow? Or
I recall it being pretty slow.
now you mentioned Kalamazoo. You eventually found yourself over in the area of Kalamazoo Avenue and Fuller Avenue, correct?
Correct.
And is that on the southeast side of Grand Rapids?
It is.
Are you familiar with that area?
Very familiar.
Why is that?
I was assigned that area night shift for 6 years.
Okay. Now, at some point, did you observe the Nissan Altima in that area?
I did.
And can you just explain to us here as far as when you first observed that?
I was traveling south in Kalamazoo, approaching the area of Dickinson and Orville. I noticed the vehicle was traveling slowly, and as I had gotten fairly close to it, made an abrupt right-hand turn onto, I believe, Orville. At that point, I was able to run the license plate, and I continued south on Kalamazoo.
Now, what does it mean to run a license plate?
Essentially, we have a computer right next to us, and we're able to enter the license plate information into, giving us access to Lean, law enforcement information network, and Secretary of State information.
And running license plates, is that a common practice for you out on patrol every day?
It is,
How often would you say you run license plates?
depending on the day, how busy I am, I could run up to 30 license plates a day.
Okay. When you ran the license plate, were you behind the vehicle then?
I was.
Were you ever able to even see the occupants inside of the vehicle?
No.
So the vehicle, Mr. McFarland, could you please pull up the map? Chris, can I just approach you here?
Yes.
Or can I approach the witness? I just want to get a laser pointer.
You want to try that?
So what direction were both?
Identify the exhibit, please. It says Q at the corner, is it exhibit Q?
Yes, I'm sorry. This is defendant's proposed exhibit Q.
Q was already admitted.
That's stipulated, okay.
Okay, so this is exhibit Q.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So Chris, just to help us understand this a little bit, what direction were you driving and whereabouts were you when you first observed the ultimate?
In this area, and I believe it was right around here, Kalamazoo, Norville, when I'd gotten fairly close to it.
And just to confirm that north is going up and south is going downwards here on this map.
Correct.
So if I have it right, you were traveling south and the Altima was traveling south in front of you.
Correct.
The Altima turned where?
I believe it was Orville.
All right.
So they made a right-hand turn to head west on Orville.
And as it's turning, you type in the plate, and where do you continue while you're typing in the plate?
I continued south on Kalamazoo.
And just tell me, as far as running a plate, what's the norm with this system?
You'll type it in into a little box, and you usually experience some type of delay. So depending on the Wi-Fi connection at the time,
At some point, do you get a response from that?
I did.
This search. And what does that indicate to you?
I had gotten a response indicating that the license plate that I had ran didn't match the vehicle that I'd just seen, essentially.
Now, a plate that does not match a vehicle, is that a law violation?
It is.
Is it a legal justification to stop a vehicle?
It is.
So what did you do next?
Well, I had gotten the response prior to reaching Griggs. When I saw that I had gotten a response indicating an improper plate, I turned right on Griggs and driven up to Newark, where I saw the Nissan traveling south on Newark, about mid-block or so.
What did you do next?
I went north on Newark in an attempt to just get eyes on the vehicle, verify it's the vehicle I saw, and also verify that I had the license plate information correct.
Is that something that you like to do in that situation?
Yeah, especially when it's super easy to fat finger a letter and potentially get an improper response on my own.
Okay. So now if I have it right, you're traveling north on Newark and the vehicle is traveling south towards you?
Correct.
And what happens next?
I turn right behind the vehicle as I'm passing it to check the license plate and to verify I entered it correctly, and I pull into a drive somewhere around here in an attempt to get behind this car so I can stop it.
And as you turned there, were you able to get a look at the license plate?
I was.
And what did that indicate?
That I'd ran the license plate correctly.
Now, throughout this trial, we've been watching videos, dash cam and body cam videos. When you turn into the driveway there to turn around, is this the moment that the cameras activate? All right, you're gonna correct me there.
Yeah.
And we've had people explain the
The
cameras.
camera, yeah, it's essentially
Go ahead.
we're on a 30, that's where we see the camera start on all the videos that we've seen just because of the 30-second delay. Yes.
Okay. And if we heard it right from, I believe, the Axon expert as well as Detective or Captain Cyber talked about, a lot of times the camera's always running generally, is that right?
Correct.
But there's certain triggers that start the recording mechanism.
Starts the recording mechanism, and when that starts, it brings in the 30 seconds prior to that activation point.
So you had some type of trigger later on, and then it jumped back and started recording you to the point that you were turning around there.
Correct.
And does it activate your dash cam and your body cam?
Yes.
Okay. So what did you do next after you turned around?
Well, I wanted to initiate a traffic stop on the vehicle, so as I turned around, the vehicle turns right onto Griggs from Newark, and that's essentially, then we see me starting to head this direction as well. And as I'm making this turn, the Nissan is making another right-hand turn onto Nelson.
So where did the Nissan start out up on Orville?
Somewhere in this area.
And it turned off Kalamazoo where?
Well, it turned off Kalamazoo in this area onto Orville, I believe. And that's where I lost sight of it and continued south after running the license plate.
Okay. So at this point, the Altima turned on to Orville, traveling down Newark, took a right on Griggs, is that right?
Yes.
And then took a right on Nelson,
Yes.
is that right?
Yeah.
So essentially, the vehicle was somewhat starting to drive in a circle?
Yes.
Right? Anything about when you turn around on a vehicle immediately after passing it, start turning around and then it starts driving, making a couple of right turns, anything about that is noticeable to police?
Just seems evasive. A lot of times people will change their direction just based on the sight of our fully marked cruisers.
So what did you do next here, Chris?
Well, I had gotten on the radio and notified dispatch that I was making a traffic stop.
Why were you making a traffic stop?
Why? Because the license plate didn't match the vehicle.
And that's a lawful justification to stop a vehicle, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So I think we've seen it on video, but you get on the radio and call out a traffic stop.
Yes.
What's the normal routine or expectation or common practice when a GRPD officer calls out a traffic stop? Just calling it out.
Essentially, I'm calling out the traffic stop to let my teammates know that I'm where I'm at and to head my direction.
Okay.
So that the expectation is someone should be heading that direction.
Did you request anyone to head
I
in that
didn't actually say those words, but just calling out the traffic stop itself, that it provides that expectation.
Is that the normal routine that other cars may come over and, I'm not sure the terminology, but rolled past or something along those lines?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what happens after you call out the traffic stop?
I started calling it out, and then I activated my overhead lights, which is when the cameras actually activate, and that's where we hear the sound. And then I proceed to finish calling out the traffic stop as I'm coming to a stop. At that point, the driver of the vehicle is exiting as I'm finishing my transmission.
Okay. Is the driver getting out of the vehicle when you're pulling them over, is that normal?
It's definitely, it happens quite a bit. It's just, wouldn't say it's the norm, I guess, but it does. Sometimes we do have people exit and start arguing and that type of thing.
What does that do for the police officer compared to a normal traffic stop?
It definitely raises our stress level.
Now, what are you trained to do in that situation when the driver gets out of the vehicle?
Just take control of the situation, usually just by giving authoritative, concise commands.
Now, what is the importance of trying to take command in a situation like that?
Just to keep myself and others safe.
Are there unknowns when you pull a vehicle over in a traffic stop?
Yes.
Now, when you tell the driver to get back in the car, does he follow your directions?
No.
And you talk about this take command. How are you trained to take command as far as just your voice and the directions?
It's just an authoritative voice with just simple commands of what you want someone to do.
And is right in your policies, is that what you're trained to do as far as authoritative, concise commands?
Correct.
Because on a normal traffic stop, driver not getting out of the vehicle, what's your normal approach on a traffic stop?
I just walk up and say, hey, I'm Officer Schurr with Grand Rapids Police Department. I stopped you for whatever the reason may be, and at that point I'll request their driver's license, proof of insurance, registration.
Because in this non-take command, usually you have a much different tone. Is that right on a
It's
traffic stop?
significantly different.
But here, you're trained, you need to talk authoritatively and concisely, is that right?
That's right.
Now, in this take command situation, does that do anything to your stress level as the officer?
Yeah, it definitely raises my stress.
Why?
I don't know what's going to happen.
Now, at this point, do you know who the driver is?
No,
Do you have any idea why he's getting out of the car?
I don't.
Now, you gave how many commands approximately did you give the driver to get back in the vehicle?
4 or 5.
Did he follow any of those?
No.
Now, failure to follow police officers' commands, can that in and of itself be a law violation?
Yes.
And could you technically have the authority just to place the individual under arrest right there?
Yes.
And did you do that?
No.
Why?
I just wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Okay. So what did you do next as you're commanding the driver to get back in the vehicle?
I approached him and kind of had some back and forth in regards to, I believe he questioned me on the reason for why I stopped him, what the issue was. And I had to repeat to him why I stopped him. At some point, he said something that I didn't quite understand, between just not understanding him and obviously he hadn't listened to any of my commands. I asked him if he spoke English.
And what was his response?
He quickly responded, yes.
Is it important that you understand each other?
Yes.
And were you able to confirm that?
Yes.
So what did you do next?
I asked him for a driver's license.
Is that normal in a traffic stop to ask for a driver's license?
It is.
Are drivers required to have a valid driver's license on them?
They are.
And if a driver does not have a valid driver's license, is that a basis to place them under arrest?
Yes.
So you asked the driver for their driver's license, and what was his response?
He patted one of his pockets, I believe, initially when I asked for it, and then wanted to say that he said it was in the car, and I told him to get it.
Okay. Now, what did you do during this, what did you do at this point?
Well, I told him to get the license,
Mhm.
at which point he asked the front seat passenger for the license, and I just kind of take a step back and observe that the front seat passenger appears as though he opens the glove box and shuts it without providing any type of license to the driver.
Based on your 7 years of police experience, what are you sensing at this point?
At that point, I'm sensing he doesn't have a license.
Okay. So what happens next?
The driver shuts the door and begins to walk away from me.
And when can a driver just walk away from a police officer in this situation?
No.
Based on your experience and the circumstances that had transpired thus far, what are you feeling at this point?
Well, your stress level definitely goes up. You're going to end up going hands-on with the person. So it's a pretty stressful situation. It starts to raise your heart rate a little bit, if you will.
So what do you do next?
I grab onto him, tell
Okay.
him to put his hands on his head.
Why?
I just wanted to place him under arrest.
Okay. Had he committed violations that were arrestable offenses?
Yes.
What happens when you place hands on him?
He spins towards me and shoves me away.
Now, in your experience, when you go to place individuals under arrest, do they always want to be arrested?
I would say typically people don't want to be arrested.
But is one of your essential job functions, going all the way back to the MCOLES Academy, that you may need to effectuate arrest by using some level of force?
Yes.
Is that what you were attempting to do here?
Yes.
I believe you mentioned that the driver pushed you. Is that right?
Yes.
Was there anything else during this initial skirmish that you took as any types of aggression?
His fists were clenched.
And what does that mean if someone's fists are balled up to you?
Could lead to a physical assault on me.
So at this point, did this turn into somewhat of a tussle already initially?
It did, yes.
Under Michigan law, is it a violation, a felony violation to assault and resist a police officer?
It is.
So now what happens?
He proceeds to run away from me.
Does he get very far from you?
No, not really.
So what do you initially do?
Initially, I got on the radio just to let dispatch know that I had someone running to elicit emergency response.
What does emergency response mean?
Essentially, people will start driving with lights and sirens activated and exceeding the speed limit, in hopes to get people there quickly.
In your, maybe it was 5 years or so working in that area, when you send out a message for an emergency response, what is your normal expectation of having other officers show up on scene?
Well, I think one of the big things is that area is pretty well confined, and it's not like we're working in the city, so we have officers in a small area, if you will. Typically, when you say that over the air, you can hear the sirens just saying something like that on the radio, and I don't recall hearing them at that time. But also, I mean, cars typically get there within a minute or two.
Okay, now was the driver, as he started trotting away, was he moving very fast?
No.
On April 4, were you in overall good physical condition?
Yes.
And going back all the way to the MCOLES Academy, are you trained that you may need to get into foot chases?
Yes.
And are you trained that you need to often run into very volatile and unknown situations?
Yes.
Based on your experience working in the service area of Grand Rapids, why do individuals often run from police?
My experience has been that when people run, it's typically for some type of felony offense associated with what they're doing.
So, does any foot chase then, is there always some type of risk or perhaps danger to an officer in a foot chase?
Yes.
Is there a policy advising officers that they cannot foot chase?
No.
And in fact, had you and fellow officers on your team been in other foot chases in the past?
Yes.
Approximately how many?
With other teammates and that kind of thing, I've probably been involved in hundreds, 100 or so, I would say.
So is it a normal expectation to pursue on foot when you're working with GRPD?
Yes.
How many solo foot chases do you think you were in?
Probably 30 or 40.
And is that a topic that the department had recognized you for in the past as far as?
Objection, this is like the second time they've tried to introduce stuff that's already been excluded by the court, Your Honor.
Your Honor?
I'll explain that because we have already had that discussion. So
Can I just build a record briefly, Your Honor? The prosecution's experts.
Clear, then Your Honor.
approach, you know.
Chris, had you gotten in similar foot chases to the foot chase here in the past?
Yes.
And did your department ever punish you for that?
No.
In those foot chases, do you draw up a detailed police report?
Yes.
Do you have a body cam?
Yes.
Where do those detailed police reports explaining what you did, where do those go?
To the police department,
And then where?
Kent County Prosecutor's Office.
Was there ever any concern in the past with your similar foot chases in the past?
No.
Your efforts in other foot chases, did you catch people that were wanted on other criminal matters?
Yes.
Were you successful in getting a lot of unlawful contraband off the streets?
Yes.
During your tenure at GRPD, had there been episodes where subjects flee from police and then unlawfully enter the property of others?
Yes.
This area here, is that a rather densely populated area?
Yes.
And are there a lot of families living in those neighborhoods?
Yes.
Now, going back to the pursuit here, where did the driver initially start trotting towards?
Towards my patrol vehicle.
Can you mention, what do you initially do when he starts to run?
I got on the radio.
So what do you do next?
I continued to chase him, and he turned in between his car and mine, and I waited until we got to a grassy area to initiate a tackle.
As you started to pursue him, were you confident in your abilities to catch up to him?
Yes.
Was he that far ahead of you?
No.
And he had just assaulted you, is that right?
Yes.
After you tackle him, what was your intention?
My intention is just to arrest him.
In that situation there that we see, did you want the driver to get up off the ground?
No, it's definitely advantageous for us to arrest somebody on the ground at that point with just their stomach on the ground.
Were you giving any verbal commands to the driver?
Yes.
What were you saying, if you recall?
And I know I told him stop resisting, get his hands behind his back. A
Did he
variety of.
Did he comply with any of the commands?
No.
As the driver's on the ground, what is he doing?
His muscles are tense. I'm trying to grab his arms and I'm not able to get control of them.
Were you able to keep the driver on the ground during this initial skirmish?
No.
Was he able to get up off the ground then?
He was.
How
yeah.
many times?
Well, he gets up off the ground a few times during the entire incident.
Now, are you trained on, and I think we've already talked about this with the training unit, but are you trained on some different maneuvers to try and apprehend a suspect in a situation like that, to try to apprehend them and get them in cuffs?
Yes.
And did you try some of those?
Yeah, I tried to initiate, well, I did knee strikes on the driver.
What is the main goal of the knee strike?
Essentially, I was using my right knee to strike, I believe, his right thigh against what's known as the common peroneal, which is just a nerve, and essentially it does provide some pain to them, but it is more or less a distraction, an attempt to gain control of them.
Were you trying to injure him?
No.
Is that a maneuver that tends to cause injury?
No.
Were you mad or upset at this driver?
No.
What were you trying to do?
I was just trying to arrest him.
Were the knee strikes effective?
No.
Now, in your training, how are you trained to approach the initial encounter like this, as far as how much energy or how hard you're supposed to go at the initial outset?
Well, you definitely want to go pretty much as hard as you can and attempt to gain control as quick as you can.
And do they train you as far as whether you should try to give as many knee strikes as possible right off the bat?
I would say within reason. Whatever is reasonable at the time, and attempt to gain control. I wouldn't say just keep going and giving them knee strikes like a bunch, but it needs to be proportional.
All right, I understand. Mr. McFarland, could you please go to the body camera video? I believe that's the People's Exhibit. People's Exhibit 2.
It is 3.
Sorry. Exhibit 3. And Mr. McFarland, could you go to 1 minute and 45 seconds? play that to 2 minutes and 38, 2 minutes and 38 seconds. Could you please dim the light, Sue?
No, no, stop, stop. Freeze. Stop. 1915, got one running. Stop. 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 Okay. Stop. Stop. Get your hands behind your back, okay? Hands behind your back, okay? Turn your hands behind your back. 1950, time to work hard. Okay?
Turn the lights back on. Start me more cars. What does that mean?
I want an emergency response. I know I already asked for one, but my intent at that point is to let people know that I'm really struggling right now. And if you weren't driving fast, you better be driving a heck of a lot faster now.
Because from the moment where you first put your hand on him at approximately 1:45 until start me more cars, are we getting close to about a minute or so there?
Yes.
45 to 38? Which direction was the driver running towards?
In northeasterly direction.
And was he on the sidewalk, or did he run over onto the grass in a different direction?
He ran over on the grass.
Is it, based on your experience, is it normal that individuals start to run in towards houses?
Typically, people start to run onto others' property. That is kind of, typically people don't just run down the sidewalk. It does happen, but I think people know that it's harder for us to chase them when they're jumping over fences and that type of thing.
Okay. One of your roles to protect all of these neighborhoods?
Yes.
Now, at this point, can you start to hear anything as you watch that, as far as your breathing goes?
Yeah, I'm definitely pretty exhausted at this point.
We're about a minute in. What were you wearing? We've heard some testimony about this, but what were you wearing that morning equipment-wise?
Just standard equipment. I had bulletproof vest with a plate, gun belt that had my firearm, taser, baton, flashlight, radio, pepper spray, 2 sets of handcuffs.
Approximately how much weight does that add up to, if you know?
20 or 25 pounds.
The knee strikes, do those, we watched some in the training montage as well, as far as you practicing those knee strikes, do those take energy to use a knee strike?
They do, yes.
And the driver, I know he's saying, okay, but is there anything about his body actions that's different?
Nothing about his body actions are suggesting that he's trying to comply.
What's he doing?
He's continuing to resist me.
Okay. Now, up to this point, actually just backing up, we can't see it as well in that video, but you had testified that the driver had been able to get up off the ground at least maybe 2-3 times during this initial struggle.
Well, I was saying just an entire incident,
Okay.
2-3 times, but yeah, I tackle him and he's able to get up
Okay.
again pretty quick.
And were you putting your weight on top of him as he got up?
Yes.
During this situation, in these training materials, does it indicate that you should stay engaged with the individual?
Yes.
Perhaps move on to some other training to try to apprehend the individual?
Yes.
Because at this point, had you attempted several verbal commands?
Yes.
And did he comply with any of them?
No.
And had you now used several different lower levels of physical force upon the driver?
Yes.
And did those appear to have any effect on him?
No.
At this point, do you know who the driver was?
No.
Do you know why he's fighting so hard to avoid arrest?
I don't.
Does that mean anything to you?
I mean, I'm wondering why he's fighting so hard. Yes.
Because what's your normal experience having a struggle like this, where you chase and tackle and deliver some strikes?
My experience with foot pursuits has been typically people run, and if you start to catch up to them, sometimes they might just give up. Or you tackle them, they give up. Sometimes, yeah, you do have to do a couple knee strikes, and then they give up, but not this kind of drawn out altercation, if you will.
So what are you thinking at this point?
I really don't know what I feel like there's something more going on. That's what I'm thinking.
Now, at this point, are you getting any type of response from other officers as far as sirens?
No.
Are other individuals around you now at this point?
Yes.
Do you know any of those people?
I do not.
I believe we've seen it already, and we'll watch it again in a moment here, but I just want to ask you first, at some point, do you and the driver move across the lawn?
We do.
What direction do you move towards?
I guess we head back south.
And was that your choice to move south?
No.
What did you attempt to do?
Well, I mean, ideally it would have been I would get his hands behind the back of us on the ground, but he's able to get up. I'm just holding onto his arms as he's walking us across the yard, if you will.
Did you try any additional maneuvers as you get across the yard?
As we go across the yard, I tried to do another knee strike, but I felt like I couldn't even hardly pick up my legs.
Why is that?
I'm just exhausted.
Mr. McFarland, could you please play from 238 to 303 on People's Exhibit 3?
Stop. Okay. Stop resisting.
Chris, were you able to hear your breathing there towards the end?
Yeah.
And what do you hear?
It just sounds like I'm wheezing.
Okay. And what's a wheeze?
I would say a constricted exhale, if you will.
Is it cold outside that morning?
It was.
And do you recall what you were feeling physically at this point?
I'm completely exhausted at this point.
Had your attempts thus far had any effect on the driver?
No.
And under policies in this situation, would you be justified to move up to some other level of force based on the driver's resistance and aggression that he's presented thus far?
Yes.
At this point, what do you train would be the next appropriate level of force to move up to?
Well, in my mind, I've tried knee strikes and they were completely ineffective. I didn't feel as though they were, having any type of effect, or even it didn't seem as though he was acknowledging the fact that I was striking him. So to me, what made the most sense with my level of exhaustion and just the lack of effect with those strikes, I felt as though I needed to move to a taser just to actually interrupt the muscle function.
And were you in proximity to the driver when you initially went to draw your, where were you in proximity to the driver when you initially went to draw your taser?
I believe I'm going for my taser right now, so I'm just right behind him.
And can you see anything blue? Where is your taser located on your body?
It would be on my support side, which is my left hip. So I'd have to reach across and grab for it.
Okay. And then you talked about the holster mechanism.
Correct.
To get the taser out of the holster. This proximity to the driver there, is that similar to the prior occasion where you used your taser on the job, as far as the proximity?
Yes.
And in that situation, was the individual also struggling?
Yes.
Now, what were your intentions at this point as far as where to deploy the taser?
My intention is to deploy it on the subject's back, just because it's more of a stress-free deployment for us in the sense that I don't have to worry about injuring him.
What happens next?
It takes me a little bit to get the taser out of the holster, and with me only having one hand on him, it affords him the opportunity to turn towards me.
Okay. And what happens as the driver turns towards you, if you can explain?
Well, when he turns towards me, I am actually able to finally get the taser out of the holster. And I recognize that he's facing me and I need to adjust or pay more attention to where the probes are actually going to be deployed.
This situation where the driver turns towards you, how much time does it take for this to quickly evolve?
Split second.
And I'm sorry, I may have missed this, but as the driver turned towards you, was there a taser attempt? Was there a deployment attempt there?
Once I realized that the top probe was going to be below his diaphragm, I deploy the taser. Yes.
Okay. And what happened as you deployed the taser?
When I deploy it, the driver grabs on to the taser itself.
Now, after the driver grabs your taser, did he ever let it go?
No.
Did you tell him to let it go?
Yes.
Had anyone ever tried to take a weapon from you before on the job?
No.
And going back to your academy, to your training, is disarming a police officer, would that be a pretty serious scenario?
Yes.
And what had you been trained to presume if a subject fought for a weapon from you?
That they would use it on us.
So how are you feeling about this situation now?
Extremely stressed.
Had that feeling before on the job?
No, at this point, I'm afraid that he's going to get the taser from me and use it on me.
Now, this wheezing, the struggling for air that we heard, that was prior to the taser even coming out, is that correct?
That's correct.
And had you ever been in a physical combat situation this long on the job?
No.
Throughout the course of everything up to thus far, did the driver ever really stop resisting or fighting over the course of the whole struggle?
No.
Had you ever had a situation where you'd had to fight for a live weapon from someone?
No.
Mr. McFarland, could you just please play Exhibit 3 to the end? Lights, please.
Let go of the taser! Let go of the taser!
Please turn the light back on. Does it sound pretty chaotic right there?
Yeah.
And can you hear your breathing?
Yes.
Has it improved at all?
No.
And we've heard this talk in this time frame about a second cartridge. At some point in the struggle, did you ever notice that the taser deployed a second time?
No.
Does it sound like you're panting for air in that moment?
Yes.
And as you watch the videos now, or the cell cam video now, are there other things going around you as well that you don't remember?
Yes.
And do you remember what people were saying around you at this moment?
No.
But after the fact now, you've seen this video many times, correct?
That's correct.
And have you heard this assertion that the taser was deployed a second time?
Yes.
But Chris, as you watch this video, okay, the cell cam video of the passenger, from the moment that we can now see the taser was deployed, do you fight, after that, do you fight put any less effort into trying to get the taser back after that?
No.
Why is that?
I'm afraid he's going to use it on me.
What was your focus at this point?
I just want to get the taser from him.
So what do you remember? Your body camera's off now. You
Yeah.
heard the explanation from the expert as far as the presses that were going on.
Yeah.
Is that fairly common in physical struggles?
Yeah, it happens.
Now, what do you remember happening next?
Somehow I ended up behind the driver. I don't know how I ended up behind him. I saw that he had full control of the taser, meaning that he was holding it like a firearm with his thumb in a position that was blocking the safety switch, the on-off switch. And I was reaching over top of him in an attempt to shut it off in hopes that he wouldn't be able to use it on me.
Okay. And what happens next during this effort?
At some point, I start to feel him turning towards me, and I feared that he was going to use it on me.
Now, based on your training and experience, was the driver close enough to deploy probes on you?
Yes.
Was he close enough to press a drive stun on you?
Yes.
Were you basically within arm's length of each other?
Yes.
And had you experienced that taser capabilities?
Yes.
What were you thinking he was going to do with it?
I believed he was going to use it on me.
And you have firsthand knowledge of the incapacitation?
Yes.
How long does the ride last?
5 seconds in an ideal environment.
How long does it take for someone to get your pistol off and use it on you?
Second.
Did you, throughout your training, throughout your career, were you trained that the taser can cause death or serious injury
Yes.
in several different ways?
Yes.
And was the driver in proximity to do that as he's turning towards you?
Yes.
During the course of this struggle, had the driver been able to get up on prior occasions in the past successfully?
Yes.
And what was your abilities at this point as far as breathing? Was it getting any better?
No, one of the main reasons why I brought the taser into it is because I had no energy left to begin with. And we then get into a struggle over it for I don't know how long. And I'm running on fumes.
What have you been trained going all the way back to the MCOLES Academy as far as action versus reaction? What have you been trained?
That action beats reaction.
And what does that mean here in that scenario for you?
If I had waited for him to point it at me, it would have been too late.
And what were you fearful of?
That he was going to use it on me and I was going to die.
Now, and you were in a proximity to each other that he could do that to you
Yes.
with how you've been trained about that device.
Yes.
Under your training, Chris, are you required to wait to be seriously injured or killed before you can resort to deadly force?
No.
So what did you do next?
I shot him.
Why?
I believe that if I hadn't done it at that time, I wasn't going to go home.
And Chris, we've been watching this video, analyzing this video and screenshots throughout this week, but in reality, is it fair the way that we're watching this and screenshots throughout this past week?
I'd argue it's not, no.
Because in reality, how much time did you have to make these decisions?
Split seconds.
After the shot, what was your energy level?
I really don't know how to describe my energy level. My energy was depleted that when I got the taser out initially. I don't know how I made it through that struggle.
And the video speaks for itself, but could you even really stand up after you fired the shot?
No,
Could you breathe very well?
no.
Mr. McFarland, could you please just play the dispatch, just one short segment of the dispatch?
So exhibit number or letter H. Thank you.
Just the portion, one portion of the dispatch.
It is. 1915, August, involved a shooting. Melody Grant. Thank you.
Chris, was that your first call out after this shot?
Yeah.
How many breaths did it take to even get out less than 10 words?
I don't know.
Does that pretty much sum up your condition at this time?
Yeah.
How do you sound?
I've never been that exhausted.
Chris, did you want to shoot Patrick Lyoya
No,
when you took on this traffic stop?
no,
Did you have any prior bad blood with Patrick Lyoya?
no,
Were you mad at Patrick Lyoya?
no.
Did you plead with Mr. Lyoya to drop your weapon?
I did.
To the best of your abilities, did you fight to attempt to get your weapon back after he disarmed you of it?
I did.
And Chris, just as far as police work goes, okay, your career, did you enjoy police work?
I enjoyed it, yeah.
And why?
We were afforded a unique opportunity to help people in a unique way that most people are not able to.
Did you take on this job way back in 2015? Did you take on this job to help people or hurt people?
I guess I'm going to have to object, we've gone over this, I think what's the relevance?
I think that was really asked and answered as well. So I'll sustain that objection.
As a police officer, were you trained that you have the right to go home at the end of your shift?
Yes,
And are you trained that you need to be seriously injured or killed before you can use deadly force?
no,
Chris, on as far as gun draws, okay? On prior occasions, did you have to pull out your pistol while on the job as a police officer?
yeah.
Roughly how many times had you drawn your gun, not at the range, but just out in the field?
A few hundred times.
And was it drawn within training and departmental policies on those prior occasions?
Yeah,
On some of those prior occasions, did you have some type of fear or some type of potential threat around you?
yes,
But on those hundreds of other occasions, did you ever fire your weapon once?
no.
And what was different here, Chris?
I believe if I didn't do what I did when I did it, I wouldn't be here today.
Now, backup ultimately arrived, is that right?
That's correct.
Do you even recall how long it took, or would you just be going off the videos?
Just be going off video.
And do you ultimately leave the scene?
I do.
Your Honor, I would move to play defendant's proposed exhibit that we discussed. I move for admission. I believe the court's already had the opportunity to look at that. It would be defense proposed exhibit GG.
Just checking on you, all right? You good? All right, I'm gonna get somebody to be with you here in a second. I got an ambulance coming. We'll get you checked out. And I'll get a statement from you in just a second.
Is that you in that video, Chris?
It is.
And just approximate, but would that be maybe 4 or 5 minutes after the shooting?
I believe so.
Could you just play it again, please?
You all right? Don't say anything. Just checking on you, all right? You good? All right, I'm gonna get somebody to be with you here in a second. I got an ambulance coming. We'll get you checked out. And I'll get a statement from you in just a second.
No further questions, Your Honor.